Roberto Pinotti is an Italian aerospace journalist and recognised once by the legendary J. Alec Hynek as a world-class UFO researcher. He's produced 2 excellent volumes on UFO contacts in Italy, and he joins us now. Hello, Roberto.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Fine.
First of all, I wanted to ask you about Italy's rich history of UFO sightings and incidents. Why do you think that Italy is such a hotspot for UFOs?
Well, probably for, I think, for geographic reasons. After all, Italy's position is in the center of the Mediterranean Sea. And from a strategic point of view, it's rather important. So I think that, well, everybody may have to consider this simple geographical position. You see, for instance, even NATO had UFO incidents.
Mm-hmm.
Just to begin, in 1977, there was a very interesting incident in Sardinia when 3 military helicopters of the Italian army had the opportunity to have a close encounter in the air, of course.
Mm-hmm.
They saw a UFO, and since this happened not far from Cagliari Elmas, which is a civilian and also military airport.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there were different witnesses about this. So it was rather impossible to cover everything. And this incident came out in the press and so on. So we had the opportunity to confront the military authorities. And at last, in a few months, we had the answer that really UFOs were present in the area. And even the Italian Department of Defense showed us the report, the original military reports of the incident. And this is very interesting because it was one of the first concrete proof that something really happened there, you understand. Then, in a few months, we had the explosion of the great Italian UFO wave of 1978. Imagine that we had more than 2,000 sightings in a period of about 1 year between 1978 and 1979. Mm-hmm. It was an incredible thing.
It was.
At the end, the Italian government was obliged to tell the Italian Air Force, okay, you have to follow this case.
Do you think, Roberto, that you say 2,000 in about a year, do you think anywhere else in the world at any time in history there have been as many UFO sightings in one place?
Well, frankly, as Hynek said, that UFO wave was one of the biggest we had in the world, really. But it was not only Italy which was visited in that period. For instance, we had a lot of other sightings in different countries. So in any case, it is interesting that that year there were interesting events. For instance, 1978 was also called the year of the 3 popes because you know the story. Yep. But not only, we had some political events, very, very important. For instance, Italian Premier Aldo Moro was kidnapped by the Red Brigades and killed, and so on. There was really a moment of instability in that moment. And sometimes psychologists say that in these periods, people see strange things, but it was not the case, because a lot of physical evidence is linked to that UFO wave, you understand?
Yep. Well, the 2 volumes of books, one was what produced in 2017, and the new one has just come out. And you cover every major UFO event in Italy since what, 1907?
Exactly. Well, my purpose was to leave something in English, because you see, in Italy I wrote more than 50 titles starting in 1973. But of course, there is a language barrier
Yep.
outside Italy, you understand. So
Mm-hmm.
it was important and useful to make a two-volume book with the most interesting, intriguing UFO cases in our countries. This will remain, in other words, since everybody may read it, you understand?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, a lot of interesting events occurred really in Italy. For instance, consider that also in 1996, we had in our hands for the first time the evidence that even before the Second World War, UFOs haunted Italy. And the Italian government of that period, the fascist government, took care of this. Of course, they just thought that these unconventional flying vehicles
This
were
was under
just
Mussolini. This was under
yes,
Mussolini.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. They thought that these unconventional flying vehicles were only some new weapon of another European country, but it was not so. And in any case, since the fascists had developed their force at a certain extent, well, they could not accept the idea that someone else could haunt the Italian skies. So Mussolini created this study group, and the leader of this study group was Guglielmo Marconi, who died in 1938, if I well remember. But in any case, the studies the Italian did in this period about these new unconventional vehicles was very intriguing, because the form was round. So it's quite completely different. And there was some approach to invent something else, but it was more or less useless. In any case, the studies of the Italians were later inherited by Nazi Germany, absolutely.
Yeah.
And
So there was collaboration between the Italians and the Nazis at the time.
In any case, what is important is that the documents we had really proved to be genuine, because we had the forensic analysis of the original documents, and well, there is nothing to do. The documents were really made in 1933, 36, and so on. So, well, someone says, oh, well, but they are not historical documents. I may agree, but consider that if you have some reports about what we call today UFOs, and these reports are dated the 30s, well, this may mean something, I think.
For sure. In 1933, under Mussolini's reign, I believe there was a UFO crash in Italy, and they may have recovered a couple of bodies.
Yeah, in fact, the story started in 1933, and even the group, the study group, was named Cabinet RS-33. RS means Special Research. Is the acronym, no? And 33 is simply 1933. The story is that something crashed in Lombardy in 1933. And of course, this started everything. Of course, this was completely top secret. And well, apart from the fact that in that period, Italy was under a dictator, so no problem. Nobody knew anything, but only a few elements in the fascist government knew something about this. That is Mussolini, his son-in-law, Count Ciano, the Minister of the Foreign Affairs, Italo Balbo, well-known aviator and the chief of the Italian Air Force, and just someone else, some scientists, some astronomers, some experts in different disciplines. The guy who sent the documents was simply a relative or one of the components of this cabinet. Mm-hmm. What we could verify in any case is the fact that, and it has nothing to do with the documents we received, really there are a lot of telegrams in the archives in Milan showing that the prefects of the Kingdom of Italy used to send to the chief of the government, in this case Mussolini, news about unconventional flying vehicles. So this was an argument very, very well followed, you understand? And yep. It's an indirect proof that really there was really something and not a simple legend, you understand?
Yeah, I mean, has it been followed up, Roberto? The craft, the bodies, does Italy still have those, or have they been moved elsewhere?
Yeah, the fact is that from what we were told later, well, it seems that everything now is in the United States, in the sense that when the war was over and the Anglo-American armies defeated the Germans in northern Italy, well, this material seems to have been taken to the United States. And this is exactly what we were told by Mr. Brophy, the son of a lieutenant colonel of the United States Air Force, who was involved in the UFO affair, who told his son that he knew that from Italy, really something who had crashed was taken to the United States. And well, there may be something else to explain why Mussolini was sure that the unconventional flying vehicles were not extraterrestrials,
right,
but Germans. Why? Yeah. Because it seems that the corpses which were found, well, were human-like corpses, and well, Nordic type humans. And of course, this fit perfectly to the idea of German pilots, you understand? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But frankly, they were not Germans, of course. No. Otherwise, Second World War would have been won by the Nazis.
Yeah. Well, we have a lot of Nordic alien type sightings here in the US as well. Every country seems to have its own Roswell. What is Italy's Roswell?
Probably is this. Is the 1933 cases, because is something long before. But you see, for instance, here in Italy we have the World UFO Symposium organized by our center, Centro Ufologico Nazionale, CUN, which is one of the 4 oldest UFO organizations in the world. And we organized this during the last 28 years in the state of San Marino, the Republic of San Marino. And for instance, 3 years ago, I was really stunned by something very, very interesting. A French pilot, for instance, a French pilot, Jean-Gabriel Gresley, made a presentation in which he showed us some documents obtained by through the Freedom of Information Act in the USA. Well, it seems that he obtained it not from the Department of the Air Force,
right,
but from the Department of Justice.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yes.
Very, very, very clever. No, because there are some very interesting documents. For instance, a letter of General Marshall, and in this letter to the President of the United States, the general says that after the Battle of Los Angeles, something had happened. That is, two objects had been crashed,
Right.
and
Right.
were recovered. One in the open sea by the United States Navy, and the second in the mountains of San Bernardino, and they were recovered and studied. And then there is another letter by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This has nothing to do with UFOs, but this letter, just a little before the president's death, mentions this incredible non-terrestrial science they had, the United States will have to study, but not really now, because the most important thing is just to win the war against Germany and Japan. But this is interesting because it links with the other document, you understand? Frankly, I think that we have a lot of other similar events, but of course nobody knows about this.
Yeah. What's the relationship between, I mean, allies like the US and Italy? Do they collaborate on the UFO situation? Is information shared between the two countries?
Well, presently, you see, if I could say this, well, the Italian Air Force formally, they say they do not secret anything. And really, it could be. But you see, in 1979, they were obliged by the Italian government to face regularly the UFO problem. And they still do it. They have in their archives more or less 500 official cases. They are not too many. They are not few. For instance, consider that we, as a civilian study center, have in our archives in the last 100 years, more than 13,000 cases. So
that's a
big,
lot.
it's a big difference. But you see, the problem is that people do not like to report this to authorities. You understand?
Yeah.
Today, everybody, well, they refer to the web now, but nobody goes to the Italian Air Force and say, okay, I saw nobody. So what is interesting to say is that only a few of what cases of what really happens is really reported to the Air Force, to the Italian Force, and so it's a limited, you see, part of all the cases. Frankly, I can say this. I had a personal experience about this. In 1971 and 72, when I had to do my military duty normally at that time. And I was a lieutenant, an officer of the Italian army. And I was sent to a NATO unit, an elite unit, because we had, nuclear weapons at that time. It was a NATO unit. Okay. And I was asked, since they knew I was interested in this subject, if I could prepare a lecture for the superior officers of our unit. I did it. It was a real success. But there is a very interesting thing. When I was preparing it, a couple of American colleagues, a captain and a lieutenant, visited me and asked me, you are going to prepare a UFO lecture. Yes. What are you going to say? And I told them
Mm-hmm.
everything, including the extraterrestrial hypothesis, of course. And they say nothing. But before leaving, the captain looked at me and said, by the way, you know that we in the States have the crashed crafts and the corpses of the pilots.
Wow.
Yes, but this was told me in 1971. And at that time, Roswell was not known. Only some people knew about Roswell at that time.
Mm-hmm.
Only in 1979, there was the book by Berlitz and Moore
Mm-hmm.
about Roswell. So, frankly, I could not say anything. I just remained without words, and that's all.
Yeah.
But now, of course, I can interpret this like something very definite. It was just a sort of information given by a military to another military, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
And since we had bought a uniform, well, there was no risk. Everything would have been remained in our environment, no?
Yeah.
This is the story. And only some year later, I could connect the dots.
Right.
You understand?
Okay, well, it sounded like one person wanted to feel pretty important by sharing some information with you. So, I mean, in the US, I mean, we're plagued by UFO and alien cover-ups. Does the same thing happen in Italy?
Well, of course, we have cover-up, but we have ridicule. We have a lot of things you experimented in the States. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, what I could say is that in any case, here probably there is, well, a freedom of freedom a little better than in the States. For instance, consider that in Italy we have also the Vatican. And frankly, it's very interesting to see that the Vatican exponents made a lot of positive evaluations about UFOs and also intelligent life in the universe. Consider that the Vatican, in the Vatican, they even created the Latin expression for UFO, okay, which is res inexplicate volantes.
Wow.
Imagine.
Okay.
But what is interesting is that the Vatican openly said that, well, life in the universe may surely exist. It is not nothing against the fate, so we may be open to everything. And so you see that this is important, because from this standpoint, you consider that some Protestant environments even says in the United States that, well, aliens are devils, you know the story. So it's a complex picture, you understand? No, in Italy, no, frankly, it's very, very, very normal. Everything is very normal. So people is rather open to the subject.
Yeah. Well, when Pope Francis spoke, I think it was 2014, I mean, everyone thought, well, the Vatican's preparing everyone for a UFO disclosure.
He's a suspect, really. Yeah. Because consider that even the Pope, the present Pope, in a public audience, said, oh, well, by the way, if by chance one day a delegation of Martians came to here to us and asked us, well, we want to be baptized, what could we do? Well, it was not an answer. It was a question. Yeah. But it was a tremendous question. By the way, you know that Father Guy Consolmagno, who is presently the chief of the Vatican Observatory in the United States, released a book 6 months later, and the title is, Will You Baptize an Extraterrestrial? It is not a case. Yeah, it is not a coincidence.
it may have been a bit of pre-marketing on the Pope's part. But
No, really, it is very interesting because since well, since 1960, the Vatican environments began to follow this path, saying that aliens may exist, that flying saucers may be spaceships, and even we cannot forget Father Balducci. Father Balducci, well, now he's no longer with us, but well, he was a very close friend of Pope John Paul II, and openly said that obviously UFOs are extraterrestrial spaceships. My God.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, this was his opinion. That's all. But I asked Father Balducci, okay, this is your opinion, but what about the church? And he told me, well, you see, if by chance what we may see is not suitable for the church, be sure that they tell us this. And what did they tell you? I asked. Nothing.
I'm sure if I mean every UFO alien proponent, conspiracy theorist, I guess if you ask them the question, where is the one place on Earth you would go if you had access to for a day, and I'm sure everyone or close to everyone would say the Vatican vault. Do you believe they know
Yes.
more than they let on?
Well, surely the Vatican knows a lot of things. Consider that from the standpoint of intelligence, probably is the best intelligence organizations in the world, the Vatican. A lot of information are kept in Rome. So I am not particularly surprised that we can hear such statements after all, you understand. It probably is just a way to prepare the general public at a certain extent. Yeah. And if you do this in a sort of soft way like this, it's better, you understand? The problem is that fear is a negative thing. And of course, we can imagine aliens as monsters, as aggressive, as dangerous, and so on. But frankly, did anybody invaded us up to this moment? No.
No,
so,
no.
And frankly, they could have had a lot of occasions. And if you need to conquer someone, well, you do this immediately. You don't let them to develop and to defend themselves, you understand?
Yeah.
So frankly, I think that simply someone up there well, they do not consider us at their level, and probably we are not at their level. And so they are not too interested after all, because in a contact, after all, there is an exchange of things, of course. And probably we could have a lot of things to gain. But the question is, what can we offer them after all?
Not a lot. Not a lot.
I don't know. Probably not too many things in this moment.
Does Italy have a lot of abduction reports?
Well, yes, but not so many. Not so many. And frankly, we developed the idea here in Italy, and you know that also in the States, there is someone who thinks this, that not all the alien cases have to do with who is inside the UFOs. You understand?
Yep.
Because you see, it's very easy and it's very important to create an external potential enemy, because this can let you control the situation. Everybody who wanted to keep the power creates a sort of enemy. Consider this.
Yeah.
So probably, you know that the Pentagon, for instance, has also, a study about the possibility to contrast an alien invasion. You know the story.
Yeah.
It's official. It's a curious thing, but they have. The Pentagon consider really the UFO phenomena as a potential menace, a risk. And I think that if we consider all this only from the military standpoint, I don't think we'll solve the situation.
No, but we get a lot of reports with people, or the contact experience often will say there's more than one race of alien being on the ship when they're there, and then occasionally someone will say, and there was also a human dressed in a military outfit there with the aliens. So you know, you just keep asking more questions. Why? What's going on?
Well, you know that a couple of authors wrote a book about the so-called MILABs, military abductions. You know the story.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly, it's hard to answer, but I think that we should consider all this, because even abductions may be used to control the whole situation. Consider this.
Yeah.
By the way, in the origin, we had the contactee phenomenon. And well, it still exists. But then, from the 60s on, we had the abduction phenomenon. And it seems that everything changed. But is really what it seems? You know that, for instance, my old friend, well, now is no longer with us, John Mack, had a quite different approach to alien abductions, in the sense that he did not look at that at this phenomena from a totally negative approach. Probably this could have to do also with a peaceful study of another race to understand a lot of things, but it is not necessarily aggressive, negative, dangerous, and so on. Otherwise, why after an abduction cases the abductees will be afraid?
Yeah, but there is confusion, Roberto, because over here the big movement now, and it's starting to build into a tidal wave, is the consciousness movement. People making contact with non-human intelligence through higher consciousness. Is the same thing happening in Italy?
Yeah, you see, I am a sociologist, so I am quite aware of the fact that if we will have tomorrow a mass contact, well, we will have to face a lot of big problems. Anomy, for instance, the downfall of certainties, because today our world is full of definite things and everything is clear in our way of thinking. Something new is a sort of earthquake. So we will have to change a lot of viewpoints, you understand? This may create problems, but after all, the problem is that we could have an old world to lose, but we may also have a new world to gain. Consider this.
Yeah. Well, it seems, and I keep getting told by the people that are in, the CE5 experiences, that the aliens tell them what they'd like to see us become, how they like to see us treat the planet, which begs the question of disclosure. I mean, most of us would have expected a UFO to land on the lawns of the White House, but I'm not so sure. I think disclosure will be kind of and I think depends a lot on the consciousness movement. But I also think it'll be more of a collaboration between countries rather than, say, the US dominating the whole disclosure movement.
Yes, you know the story. Many ufologists think that probably a good clue could be the United Nations. And this was the first approach in 1967, and then in 1978 with the Grenada initiative in the United Nations. Then, after the failure of that initiative, well, in 2013, we had in Washington, the citizens' hearing on disclosure. I represented Italy with other 9 countries in that occasion, and at last, the proposal was that the United Nations may face this problem. Then in 2018, we had the Chinese initiative. And we cooperated with this idea. But you see, first the commercial war between China and the United States, and then coronavirus, forget it.
Yeah.
Now we have much more important things to face. But probably the United Nations is the better thing to follow, the better way to follow in order to obtain some results. Because you see, every government, after all, is part of a sort of scheme, is a part of a political picture, and nobody has the courage to do certain things. You understand?
Yeah.
For instance, just let me to explain. In 98, in San Marino, we have in San Marino since 1993. Well, we had 28 editions of the World UFO Symposium. Well, we asked the authorities of the Republic of San Marino if by chance they could be interested in doing something official in this sense. The question was interesting, but what do you think the United States may think about this?
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
It's David and Goliath.
Yeah, it is. Well, what about, when disclosure eventually happens, do you think it'll be a politician who is chosen as a spokesperson, or do you think it'll be a scientist or a mathematics genius or someone along those lines that will be chosen or they will want to speak with?
It's hard to say. I think that we could try to use any occasion, in the sense that, you see, even politicians may be useful. But, well, you see, for instance, you remember that when there was the political elections in the United States, in which Trump was elected president, even George W. Bush Sr. was involved in this campaign, because not George W. Bush, but the other brother, no? In the beginning seemed to have the idea to be a possible candidate. And American journalists asked George W. Bush Sr., he was the chief of CIA, don't forget, huh? Not only the president of the United States. And they asked him, okay, but you are here to support your son, okay? But do you think that also your son will tell the people that if they elect him everything will be revealed about UFOs. And George W. Bush Sr. said, you see, the United States can't handle the UFO problem.
Mm-hmm.
What does it mean? This is the phrase, but what does it mean? This means that only the United States can't handle everything, or that they can't handle because this could be negative for them.
Yeah.
After all, if you consider, well, if by chance we have a sudden revelation that extraterrestrial beings are here and so on, well, every nation will have to be put at the same level. And excuse me, what about the United States, Russia, China?
Mm-hmm.
You understand that, did you ever see a hen who puts himself in
Yeah. But I mean, it was Ronald Reagan's dream, though, that he always said that we were facing an alien threat. You know, how quickly would we come together?
But this is very interesting, because you see, Reagan was a good president, but he was not a politician in the real sense of the word. He was an actor, you understand? And from a certain point of view, who knows, maybe also Trump may be a surprise, because you see, politicians are made in a definitive way, and their behavior is obvious. If you are not a politician, you may surprise the world, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Roberto, what would be your favorite UFO case in Italy? What's the one that you really...
Well, frankly, I say that probably my favorite case is a 1954 case. It happened in Tuscany, and it was during the well-known 1954 UFO wave, about 1,000 cases that year. And a woman, a peasant, well, she really confronted two small aliens. They were not grays, just to be, they were small human like me and you. But very, very, in size, they were little, you understand? They were two, they spoke with her. It was not a contact historian, absolutely. She did not understand anything, of course. And only some minutes later, he understood that it was something strange. So she fled. Well, today we have someone who saw the craft landing, someone who saw the craft taking off, two boys who saw this woman speaking with two boys in the opposite hill, and there was traces on the
ground.
Yes, left by the craft. And well, even the intelligence of the Italian Air Force was involved, and of course they said nothing. They did not confirm, and they did not say anything. I contacted this woman many years later, and her report was absolutely identical. No contradictions. Everything absolutely perfect. So I consider this woman, well, now she died some year ago, of course, but I consider this report one of the most interesting and grounded, you understand?
Yeah. And what year was that again? That was what year did that happen?
Well, the idea of this woman, of course, was not, she was married, and her man said, okay, if I had been there, I will take them, I would jail them and will show them to the world.
Yeah.
Of course.
And made a lot of money.
Yeah, and made a lot of money, of course.
Roberto, you have a solution for Enrico Fermi's paradox, which basically challenged the existence of extraterrestrials on Earth. Can you share that with us? You had a solution for that?
Well, a solution, an idea. Frankly, no, I think that, you see, presently, it's evident that all the powers on Earth, all the different superpowers and important countries know a lot about the UFO problem, and there is some kind of how could we call it? A pact? I don't know. But in any case, there is an agreement. We have not to tell the world anything, and everything stay quiet, and the status quo is not has no problems. But we cannot forget that this is a sort of play, of course, but there is another play up there, you understand? And we are inside this other play. And probably what we have to solve is our degree of awareness. Because you see, if we face an open contact in the wrong way, we could ruin and destroy our civilization. If we do this in a proper way, we may have a better future. Probably those guys up there who are not too negative, otherwise a lot of other things would have happened. Probably they know this, and they do not interfere more than necessary. They show themselves, but that's all. That's all. And even people like, for instance, Jacques Vallée, well, really, they underline the fact that it's a question of awareness. If we became aware generation after generation, at the end, nobody will be surprised by this contact. And there will not be negative effects. In other words, we will turn a nuclear explosion in a controlled reaction.
Right.
And probably this is the answer. Because really, aliens are here, but they don't show themselves because they have no particular necessity to do this. After all, they use our planet for their movements, and that's all, if you consider.
Yeah, yeah.
And so why? I think we have to wait and see.
Well, I hope it's in our lifetime. But I also, on the other hand, think for people like you and I, and you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, if there was a sudden disclosure and everybody knew about aliens, where would that leave you and me as researchers and people who make a living doing this?
You see, it's a big problem, and it's a good question, because you see, for instance, I devoted 60 years of my life to this subject, and if one day everything will be solved, then well, the only thing I can say is that I may be satisfied. That's all.
Yeah.
I think that we can we could return to our normal life, probably in a better atmosphere and in a more positive way, after all, I think. Well, it's not too bad. Huh?
Yeah, yeah. Last question, Roberto. Been a fascinating discussion. You've had an asteroid named after you.
Yes.
When did that happen?
No, it was a curious thing because I was one of the founders of an amateur astronomers group in Tuscany. And okay, some years later, I forgot this. Well, but one of the members of this group one day discovered 4 small asteroids. And since I was one of the founders, well, he made a sort of homage to,
Okay.
and so I have, yes, my name was given to one of these, well, they are pieces of stones in the sky.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
okay,
Do you track it? Do you know where it is at any given time? Do you know where the asteroid is in space?
Consider that once in a TV program in Italy, I was given even a small portion of lunar surface. And because the television program bought them from an American guy who sold this.
Yeah.
But I think it will be hard to reach them.
Yeah. I guess on the other hand too, Roberto, if this asteroid suddenly trajectory was heading our way and it hit Earth, would you feel bad if that happened?
Well, yes, asteroids may be dangerous too. Huh? Don't forget it.
No.
Yeah.
Roberto, what's in store for you now in the next few years?
Well, presently we are going to have in a few days the former San Marino UFO World Symposium. We can do it. It's impossible. We can do it. So we decided to have it in any case and to do it, of course, in the web.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked some researchers of different countries to send us their presentations in English and in Italian. They did, and now in a few days we'll go on with this activity in spite of coronavirus.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's terrific news. And the book UFO Contacts in Italy, it's available everywhere on Amazon.
Yes. So it's not a big problem. I think there will be even a 3rd volume, but it will have to do with a different thing. That is, probably the title will be Timeless Contacts in Italy, in the sense that it will be an historic approach to all the cases in Italy since the Egyptian times.
Wow.
Because consider that the Tully papyrus, for instance, was discovered in the Vatican. So it's interesting, and not everybody knows this. And why not? Probably is very interesting to do this.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah. Okay, I look forward to it. Roberto, thank you very much. As I said, a fascinating discussion, and I hope we can talk again soon.
Okay.
That's Roberto Pinotti joining us from Italy.
Okay, bye.